So I wanted to show you this session here. This is going to be the first session we do at a new location. This is a park pretty close to where I live. So when we're training at a new location, because she tends to be a little bit nervous and struggles a little bit to adapt to changes, especially like location, I did break out some high value treats. So we're using a little bit of high value treats here. Normally it takes her a few minutes before she starts taking food, but in this instance she was taking it right away because it is high value. Now, anytime we're training in a new location, we always start with that attention game that we talked about in lesson 1. I just want her focusing on me, not really spending a whole lot of time trying to check out the ground. I want her to realize that paying attention to me is the best. So we're going to spend probably this first session here just getting her focus on me. And every single time I go to a new place, in the early stages of training, I'm going to spend a little time just getting her engagement on me before I ask her for any type of obedience. If she does lure nicely into that heel position, if she offers any behaviors, I can always reward those. But I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time trying to force any obedience at the very beginning. I want her to get comfortable working with me in a new place. So this park is fairly quiet, but there are a few people walking on the path, so you'll see she occasionally will look off into the distance because there are people, walking around, and she does notice them, and she's checking them out a little bit, but then I do get her focused back on me very quickly. This is, in of itself, going to be the biggest way to help her be more confident in new situations, is teaching her anytime we're in a new place or in a new setting, new environment, just focus on my handler, focus on my mom. Everything revolves around them. Now, this is a pretty easy change. It's a very quiet park. There's not a whole lot going on. There's not a lot of noises, not a lot of traffic. What we're going to do is we're going to continually do this in more challenging locations. So we're going to, maybe go to a little bit of a busier park or a place with a little bit more traffic or more cars. Or maybe we'll go to like a school, or a playground or something like that. But we want to make it very easy to start, and then we're slowly going to make it more challenging. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to start to ask for obedience once she's very comfortable in these places. And I do apologize, our other client is a little whiny in the kennel, but hey, we all struggle sometimes. Nice. So you can see here, she's offering those behaviors. Her sit has been fairly crooked, but I think today they were really straightening out nicely, so we do spend a lot of time working on straightening out that sit in this session and the next session. But yeah, that was it, and that's the whole session. So when you're doing this with her at home and you're going to new places, that's about how short you want it to be. So this session, we literally drove from the other park directly to this park. We're going to do again just kind of the same thing because it's, again, a new location. We've never been here before. Just getting her attention on me, mark, reward. And again, so you can see it's a new location. She's looking all around, new places, new people, cars, new smells. So we're going to spend a little time getting her engaged. Now again, she is taking a little while to take the food because she's distracted again. But after a few minutes, she starts taking it. So this is partly why I put a lot of emphasis on we want her to be very hungry when we're training, because until she's taking food, there's really not a lot we can do. The food is a huge part of how we teach our dogs. It's not something you're going to need forever. It's something that we're going to fade away from needing. But when we're trying to improve or trying to teach our dog something new, the food is a really helpful tool that we have. Now for her, thankfully after a few minutes, she starts taking food. But in the meantime, I use a little bit of affection, a little bit of comforting, a little bit of petting, to help her relax a little bit. Once she settles in, she starts taking the food, and then we can finally get started. Hey, good girl. So even though, she does a little jumping up, I'm not going to get on her too much about the jumping because I want her to be comfortable in this new place. It's a little bit of a displacement behavior because she's still a little nervous. So I'm not going to, make a big deal out of it. And then we're just going to get into that engagement again. So we're just going to get her focused on me, get her focused on the task at hand, and then a little later in the session, we do start to add in some obedience. But when we first start in a new place, always remember we want to do a little bit of engagement, a little bit of focus, a little bit of relationship building, and getting her focused on the task before we start to ask her for things. Because you can still see her focus is on the ground, it's sniffing, she's looking around. If I tried to ask her for a behavior right now, she probably wouldn't even hear me. And so we want to make sure that our dog is ready to receive information and ready to engage in the activity. If we're doing sits, if we're doing downs, if we're doing place, whatever it is, we want to make sure that our dog is ready. If they are so outwardly focused on everything else that's going around, we're just going to not have success. We're going to have bad reps, and our dog is not going to be learning very well. I want you to notice that while we're doing this engagement activity here, we're not trying to get anywhere specific. We're not going for a long walk. We're not aimlessly moseying around. I am trying to change directions. I am always trying to keep her focus on me. If she's looking away, I'm going to go the other direction. I'm going to make some kissy noises to get her attention. I'm always going to be kind of really involved. We have to be pretty energetic if we want to keep our dog's attention, especially when they are distracted or nervous or, concerned about other stuff. So this is now the next day compared to the previous videos. And so we're back at the first park again. And since she's doing, very well, she's now comfortable. She's like, oh, I know this place. We're going to go right into some obedience here. And this is where we start to really try to straighten out that sit. And that looks very nice right there. So she had been sitting a little bit wide, and then we straightened it out. And now we're going to start working on our down. Something that we weren't expecting to happen was the random maintenance guy came over and started talking to me. It definitely kind of spooked Rory, and you'll hear the other dog in the car bark a little bit, and she kind of growls at him. But what I want you to notice is that we were able to disengage from that very nicely. Because you can see here, she sees the guy, she barks a little bit, she gets a little bit nervous. I want her to go back into that sit. I realized that she is way too distracted to do this repetition. I can hear her growling at him, so we're going to just go back to a little engagement. And that's how you would handle that situation. So if she sees something that she's really nervous about, we're going to kind of back away. We're going to get her attention back on us. And then when she does, we're going to mark and reward. I wanted to show you, here was another example where she was fixating on some people walking on the trail, and I was just trying to get her attention back on me, and then mark and reward. So anytime you feel like you're losing her attention, you can always go back into that attention game and getting her focused back on you, building that engagement. And then after she's back focused on the task at hand, we can go back into that obedience. So today we're working on our down. I think there is... We do a little bit of our sit practice to straighten out our sit first. That way, when we do our down from our sit, our down will be nice and straight. So we start with a straight sit, and then we go into a straight down. If our sit is crooked, when we go into the down, it's going to also be crooked. So I want you to see here, I'm not putting a lot of pressure. I'm just using my foot as a little bit of a lever, and then I'm pulling up with my hand. So the leash is just sliding gently under my foot. But you'll notice, she's not getting upset. We're not strangling her. We're not choking her. We're just gently applying a little bit of downward pressure, and that pressure is cueing her to go into that down position. So just like the way we do our sit, we're using just a little bit of leash pressure to guide her into that down. So you can see here, it's not really bothering her. She just feels it. And then once she gives in and goes into that down position, if she doesn't do it on her own, I can also use a little bit of food to guide her downwards as well. But I want to make sure if we use that food that she feels the pressure first, then the food comes into it. So the key here is that she's learning when she feels that downward pressure, the pressure stops as soon as she lays down. And she picks it up very quickly, so we'd have to use very minimal pressure. She feels it, it's just enough to tell her to lay down, and she goes right to that down, we mark and reward. So we're gonna do this for a couple sessions, and once she's doing a really good job, we're going to then start to say the word right before she feels the pressure. And it's always funny when we see the dog doing this, because we're not using a lot of pressure, but you'll see them kind of drop their head down, saying, I know I'm supposed to go downwards. But they're just kind of resisting with their elbows. So she does have a habit of doing that kind of crooked sit. So we always want her to sit nice and parallel with us as much as possible. And she does a good job of fixing herself there. But yeah, she's doing good throughout this whole session. No complaints. So again, this weekend, my assistant is going to be here taking care of her. We went over all of the instructions today. She'll be with her from Friday until Monday morning.